Hello and welcome to the Posers Podcast, the place where we skip the fluff, say the quiet parts out loud, and dig into what really matters. This is where photography, psychology, and business collide. I'm Jody, your host, and I'm bringing you my raw takes, hard wins, and a whole lot of unfiltered honesty about what it takes to build a photography business that actually connects and makes money. So ladies, grab your headphones and get your tits up and your ears open because we are going to build something really incredible together. Hello, my beautiful posers. We are back. I am so excited to dive into what I've prepared for you today because it is a mind blower, okay? And it is long and it is in depth. And it is going to teach you something that I don't think that you have ever heard before. And I love this idea so much because I love the idea of thinking about things in a different way and running our businesses according to learning human behavior and learning why we do what we do and why we are attracted to what we're attracted to. Okay, this popped into my head from this weekend. This last weekend, I actually took a day off, which does not happen in my world very often because I don't remember how much we've talked about my personal life here, but I don't have a husband who lives here in my city. So I'm kind of like a single mom, even though I'm not single, right? My husband lives in Arizona. I live in Nevada. I have 3 boys and I have them all week long. They go to their dads on the weekends, right? And then on the weekends, I'm usually in the studio. I'm doing shoots. I'm doing all of the business stuff because Saturday and Sunday are the only day of the week that I actually get to put in a full work day. So this last weekend, I had a Saturday in which I had every intention to come into the studio and I was going to get all kinds of content done. I was going to record this episode of the podcast early. I was going to do all of this stuff. I'm glad I didn't come in here and record this episode early because it wouldn't be what it is for you today if I had done that, right? So on Saturday, I got to the point, it was about noon, and I had done all of my chores around the house in order to feel comfortable about leaving for the day. I'd gotten my children everywhere they needed to be delivered to, and it was about noon, and I was like, okay, Jody, rally, get up, go to the studio, get all of this stuff done. And I just couldn't. I kind of hit a wall. I've been a little bit sick. You can probably still hear it in my voice a little bit because I'm a little froggy. And I hit this wall and I was just like, no, I'm going to give myself permission to take the day off. And I plopped myself down on my couch so fast that I didn't move for many hours. And what I did while I was sitting there on my couch is I decided to watch The Pitt because I had heard so much about this show and how addictive it is and how great it is. And so I was really excited to just cozy up on my couch and take a day for myself and engage in my favorite pastime, which is escapism. Anytime I can be inside of a book or inside of a TV show, that is where you will find me. So I plopped onto the couch and I did not move. I ordered dinner. I sat there. I picnicked. Okay. But so I binge watched most of The Pitt. And this show is incredible for an entirely different reason than you would think. Yes, it's a show about a hospital ER, which is fascinating to begin with. I mean, I have been binging Grey's Anatomy. It's completely different than Grey's Anatomy. It rivals the days of ER, right? Back with the George Clooney. And actually, Noah Weil stars in The Pitt. I think he produces it too, but whatever. Noah Weil used to be on ER, which is something that I watched because my parents were watching it whenever I was a kid. So if this is over your head, then just do a little research and digging into the 1900s and you'll find it, okay? But anyways, Noah Weil starred on ER and now he's starring in The Pitt. So it feels as though you kind of are watching his career. Anyways, it is set inside of the emergency room in Pittsburgh. And the thing that is so captivating about this show is that it is really filmed in a way that makes you feel like you are right there in the emergency room with them. So all of the hospital sounds are really accentuated. There's not background music. There is just chaos and noise that you would expect to have inside of the ER. There is not, I mean, I'm sure it's professional lighting. We all probably know it's professional lighting, but it seems as if it's just the fluorescent lights of the ER. So it's very bright, it's very noisy, it's very chaotic. There are sounds going off everywhere. And then the way that the storylines work is that, okay, so every episode is 1 hour in the ER. So the first episode is like 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. The second episode is 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., right? And the whole entire season goes along filming as if this is just one day inside of the ER. So it really makes you feel as though you get connected to the storylines and connected to the characters, the people who are coming in with some sort of an ailment and either getting their diagnosis or going into surgery or flatlining right there on the table, right? But one person's storyline could get finished in one episode. Another person's could take 3 episodes. Another person's could take 5 episodes, right? So you've got all of these storylines going just like a normal TV show would that draws you into all of that. But the idea of it also feeling so real and also feeling like you could very easily know these people in real life, it captivates you. So this got me thinking while I was sitting on the couch at my house, binging all of this and basically becoming one with my couch for at least, I want to say 8 hours. I think it was probably a little bit longer. I think I went to bed around 10 and I'm pretty sure I started around noon. So yeah, that's a little embarrassing, but I don't care. I needed it. Okay, so it reminded me of something that I had taught a couple years ago about harnessing the addictive power of reality TV inside of our businesses. And so it just clicked in my head. I was like, you know what? This is something that is so powerful and so mind-blowing that we have to talk about it on the podcast. Okay, so there is no question that reality TV hit the marketing jackpot whenever it exploded in like 1990s and the 2000s. I'm talking about shows like The Real World, Survivor, America's Next Top Model, Project Runway, Big Brothers. All of those became like huge global franchises. And seriously, I would actually give up some of my organs to have the original Project Runway back on my screen. I don't want reruns. I don't want a streaming service. I want new episodes with Heidi and Tim Gunn. I want them back. I want them every Thursday night. I don't care if they want to retire. I want fresh. I want new. I would watch these shows until I stopped breathing if I had the chance, okay? But this was the beginning of what would actually turn into this really like influencer-based world that we know now in current time, right? So while this isn't a podcast on like the start of reality TV, because some would argue that it started back in the 1940s with like Candid Camera and like things like that, but most would say that that the producer, his name is Craig Gilbert, he was the first person in the 1970s to really refer to this style of documentation as like fly on the wall filming, is what he called it. And he got it exactly right, because this approach to filming has remained popular, and some would even say highly addictive. I would even say highly addictive. I am like proof of that pudding, that it is highly addictive. And so I want to ask ourselves why. Because if we're not constantly asking ourselves why in our businesses, then we'll never be able to take the underlying psychological foundation that we see happening around us in like what we're talking about here, mainstream media, or even whenever we're watching big businesses and corporations and their marketing tactics and the internet. All of these things, we'll never be able to manipulate them into something that works for us in our small businesses. Okay, so because of obviously my unquenchable thirst for trashy television and all things that are approved by Daddy Andy Cohen himself, I asked myself, why is reality TV so powerful? Why is it so addictive, right? And why has reality TV kind of made the leap to transcend into influencer marketing? And why is influencer marketing so effective? And you're probably asking, why are we talking about influencer marketing whenever we're all photographers? And it's because the way that we market our services is influencer marketing, or at least I think that it should be. And I'm going to teach you why and how. Okay. Everything always boils down to understanding human behavior. Every decision in our businesses needs to have the foundation of asking, why do humans do this thing, or why do humans think this way? And in order to understand human behavior, we have to first know that our most primitive and basic need is a feeling of belonging. This comes straight from Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. We all got that information in Psych 101, so we're not diving into that here. But all you need to know from this is that this primal basic need to belong, it creates tribes. And within our tribes, there was an instinctual and vital need for communication in order to survive, right? Now, storytelling is used in the most important form of communication in order for us to learn, adapt, and thrive as a species. Storytelling, even in its most basic form, is the connective element that bonds humans. And you might be like, Jody, it's a bit of a stretch that we're going from our tribal days to now, but trust me whenever I tell you that these are the common threads of psychology that weave through the tapestry of our whole entire social evolution. So reality TV, social media, YouTube, and even Netflix are all so powerful that humans can feel bonded to the people on their screens. And it doesn't even matter that they don't know them in real life, right? So no matter if we're sitting around whenever somebody first discovered fire, or if we're watching a man land on the moon, or being captivated by singers on an American Idol type of competitive show, or binge watching The Real Housewives, preferably of New York, preferably season 4, because that was television gold. No matter what we're watching, the story of other people's lives is playing out. Therefore, it connects us to them. And watching other humans is how we learn. We saw someone, we didn't, but way back, our caveman ancestors, right, saw someone discover fire. Then we all knew how to build a fire, right? We're learning. We saw someone invent the wheel, and before you all know it, we're gardening by our cave with wheelbarrows, right? Fast forward that to now, and we watch a TikTok video about life hacks, and all of a sudden we save an hour out of our day. We see an Instagram reel to buy a course, maybe, I don't know, on how to run ads or something, and we double our business income, right? We first, in our primal days, had to learn to survive. But now that survival isn't our primal motivator, we now learn so that we can thrive. Okay, so let's take this a step further. So, like I just said, humans have their basic needs, which are rooted in survival. And then we have our basic desires, which are rooted in pleasure, happiness, and joy, right? Okay, so we cannot change these things. We are hardwired with them. It is how our brains work, whether we try to control it or not. Okay, there are 16 basic human desires. You do not need to know all of them, but some of these, just so you get an idea of what I'm talking about, some of them are power, social contact, family, status, curiosity, romance, eating, exercise, tranquility. There's more, but you get the idea of this, right? This is one of those topics that once you see it, you can't unsee it. So stick with me, because I know I'm building on this right here, but it's going to be so worth it, okay? So our daily behaviors are not random or just based on what we feel like doing, okay? They are driven. They are almost puppeteered by our underlying human desires. Many of them are completely subconscious. These desires are the gears that are turning behind the scenes, influencing what grabs our attention, who we follow, what we click on, and even what we avoid like the plague, right? They are also driving our decision-making process regarding what to buy. You're like, oh, clicking in. Okay, this is where she's going with that. All right. This is why tapping into these basic human desires can be so incredibly powerful for your business's marketing, okay? There are all kinds of ways that this impacts your business. But the desire we're going to talk about today is curiosity. And the reason why we're talking about curiosity is because whenever you couple curiosity with our basic need to belong, which we just discussed a second ago, those two things together is what makes influencer marketing, social media reels, TikTok, and reality TV so addictive, right? That fly on the wall technique for filming television shows in the 70s is the exact same phenomenon that we're tapping into by creating reels and TikToks that pull back the curtains into our lives and our businesses. This is the thing that I need you to remember. Humans love to watch how other humans human, right? As humans, we like to see other people humaning, being humans, to the point of it becoming addictive. Okay. Now, the power of curiosity comes from its ability to help us learn and grow. In our primal days, it stopped us from becoming obsolete. It fills like our blind spots and it improves like our self-awareness, right? Whenever we get curious about how things work, problems get solved and it advances us further in our life, right? A mindset lacking curiosity is a mindset that is based in certainty. And when we stop questioning and we become certain, then we risk becoming stagnant. That's like if we just kept like posting photos to our feed, which used to work. It used to get us new business inquiries whenever Instagram was new and fresh and like a quick hashtag search was all that someone needed to find you. If we stayed there, and we never got curious about venturing into carousel posts or dabbling in reels or jumping over and using TikTok or creating YouTube videos, anything that we were doing something different from that, if we stopped being curious about seeing how these things impacted our business, then our businesses would have failed to thrive, right? Okay. But so how does this curiosity also relate into that like addictive power of reality TV and social media? Reality TV and social media tap into our biological hunger for relatability, the sense of belonging to a group, to connection, and to voyeurism. We have an innate desire to see how people live, what secrets they're hiding, how they argue, what their relationships look like, what their financial situation really is, etc., etc., etc. This is, it's like the equivalent of your mom and your aunties like sitting around a table sharing the town gossip, right? But we're moving that kitchen table to a national and a worldwide space. This desire to know information about people is primitive. So the next time that your friend wants to drop the goss about how she saw your ex-boyfriend at the bar on Saturday night and who he was with, you shouldn't even feel guilty because you are literally hardwired to salivate over these details, okay? You are just trying to survive in these streets as a human. So let her give you the dish, okay? Reality TV, it provides a very easy and legal way for us to peer into the lives of others and to kind of scratch that curiosity itch that has for so long kept us thriving as a species. This becomes especially true when the people on the TV or on your social media screen are going through similar life circumstances as you might be going through, right? I remember whenever I was going through my divorce, I was so addicted to hearing other people's stories about how their divorces played out. And it hit so much differently whenever like, I don't know, one of my Real Housewife besties, whenever they're going through a divorce too, it hit differently with me to see how they were handling it, how they were coping. And ultimately, I wanted to learn from their experience and see how they handled the transition and really just relate to them on that like basic human level. Okay, so over time, we come to see the people on our screens as almost friends because we know their stories and we feel like we know them. We identify with their struggles, their triumphs. We become invested in their lives. So eventually we find ourselves like binging episodes and then going into an after show depression, a show depression after the season's over because you essentially have to break up with your friends until the next season, right? There's one other thing about our basic human desires, and it's that these feelings, they're only satiated temporarily, right? Basic human desires quickly reassert themselves because humans are only satiated for a small amount of time with these desires before they need to come back for more. So obviously, this is how addictions form. Tapping into any of our desires is so psychologically powerful. You want that next episode, you crave that piece of cake, your skin itches for like that next hit of euphoria that comes with any sort of high that you're seeking. It could be sex, drugs, success, power, social media, or anything that gives that rush of endorphins that create a high. And it can all become so very addictive. Okay, this is the exact science that makes hits of dopamine while you're scrolling social media. And this right here is the key to how you can harness this power through your use of social media for your business. We get addicted to even the fake social interaction that social media provides, and it has the power to make you feel like you're keeping up with your friends and touching base with people, okay? So as we get or give likes, it's not all about like you being addicted to you getting this kind of interaction on your social media, but as you get or give likes, you watch cute puppy reels, you comment on images that you love, that dopamine is surging and we feel happy. So we keep coming back for more. So take what we know about reality TV and how we get addicted to storylines and characters and needing to know what happens, just like I did last Saturday with The Pit, and ask yourself, how can I leverage this power inside of my business? I have used this methodology in running my Instagram stories since 2017, and it has resulted in having a cult-like following of fans who are fully invested in seriously the most trivial, but also the most intense portions of my life, right? I'm going to tell you exactly how I did this, okay? My Instagram stories have been run as if they are mini episodes of my own self-produced reality TV show, right? So there's the connection between how we are harnessing that addictive power from reality TV and turning it into these little mini episodes of our lives, right? I am 100% certain that there are other people that you follow on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or YouTube in which you feel the exact same way about them that my audience feels about me. This entire phenomenon is also why influencer marketing is so incredibly powerful too. Humans are connected to humans. They build relationships with other humans. They like, know, and trust other humans. So naturally, they want to buy from other humans. So there's the connection that I'm making, right? The basic human connection that we're all craving also makes them want to be a part of your story, part of your success, part of what you're building. So many times people ask me, oh, do you know so-and-so? And I'll be like, no, I don't know them personally. And they'll say like, oh, they said they know you, or they say they met you at a wedding, or they say that they met you one time and now they're considering you a friend, right? Or something like that. Like I've had so many conversations like that where people think or feel like they know me in real life, but really they just follow my Instagram. Just last week, I was at Volvo getting my tires fixed, and two people came up to talk about my son going to prom, and then told me stories about how watching my son go to prom gave them inspiration to talk to their kids about them having the guts to do it, or even that watching the stories about my son being like the Roy Kent of our family just gives them like a little chuckle, right? This stuff truly connects people. And it cuts through all of the nuances of marketing, and it gets straight to getting potential clients to like, know, and trust you. Okay, that was a lot that we just went over. Here's what I want you to take from this, because I can already hear you saying that you don't want to be on camera. You don't like to be on camera. You don't know what to say. You don't know where to start. You're worried you'll say the wrong thing. You don't know if you can show up like that. And maybe you're even just like, Jody, I'm not built like you. Well, I want you to think about it this way. If someone showed you a camera that would automatically take gorgeous photos, but it was a whole new system, and it would take you 2 years to learn it, and it was hella expensive, and diving into it would make you super uncomfy, would you still do it? What if somebody showed you some kind of like, I don't know, wizardry of an AI trick? but you had to get uncomfortable. You had to learn something new. Or they told you that you could double or triple your income, but you had to embrace a completely new sales technique that made you all kinds of like sweaty and squirmy to talk about sales or to roll over objections. Would you do it? Yeah. You bet your ass you would, right? Because you would want the reward of doubling or tripling your income, or having that camera that like has a guarantee that it's going to take gorgeous photos, right? Growth has never come out of your comfort zone. So if being on camera makes you uncomfortable, then that's all the more reason to do it. I'm teaching you today that there is a reason, there is proof right here in this podcast that video is so much more powerful than the written word. And the reason why this is it's called the mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect, or the familiarity principle, explains our tendency to develop a preference for something merely due to the idea of being familiar with it. The best example that I can think of in regards to this is anything related to the Kardashians, right? Now, I know I've told you that how much I love reality TV, but I do not subscribe to the Kardashians. I do not watch their shows. I don't really like them all that much, okay? But you don't have to know them or like them because their names and faces are still everywhere. This is because Momager Queen Chris has done a phenomenal job of building their brand, right? Kudos to her. So even though I don't like them, guess whose shapewear I'm going to buy whenever I need to buy shapewear? Yeah, I'm going to buy Skims because of the mere exposure effect. Even though I don't necessarily like to watch the Kardashians, my brain automatically goes to Skims whenever I think about shapewear, and I trust the brand because of its familiarity. If I saw Kylie's makeup or Kendall's tequila or Chloe's jeans or Kourtney's vitamins, then I automatically will buy those items because there is a trust built in that I recognize the brand and I feel like I know the faces and the people behind them, which is exactly what you can create by running your social media with this theory, okay? Now, can this backfire? Sure. Could people not buy from a brand because of this same principle? Absolutely. If they have super strong aversions to a person or to a brand, absolutely that could happen. But in our world of photography, that is a blessing for us. I guarantee you that there are people in my city who can't stand me, people who have unfollowed me, people who would never book a session with me because they don't relate to who I am as a person. But what my social media has already done is weed out somebody who's not my ideal client. And which would be worse, never booking the shoot to begin with, or booking a shoot with someone who ends up not being able to stand my personality and then them hating their photos and asking for a refund or writing a bad review because of the experience that they had with me, right? You see how powerful this stuff really is now that I kind of lay it out this way? Since 2017, I have ran my Instagram stories based on this tactic alone. And it has catapulted my business in a way that no other marketing strategy ever could. But here's part of the secret. It is a slow burn. When you play at this, it's the long game. It is not a quick win. It is not an instant injection of followers. It is not immediate bookings or money, right? And another quick note about this marketing strategy is that you must follow Gary Vee's marketing have you read the book? I think it's jab, 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 right hook, right? If you're only running your social media to sell out shoots or to get instant bookings or just doing it like sell, 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 then it won't work. And I'm sure you've encountered this too. You're like watching one of your Instagram friends' stories and they get to the part where they're going into their sales pitch, or their get ready with me starts to have like all of the products that they're hawking inside of it, and you skip right over it, right? You're literally like, thank you, next kind of energy. The parts of your life that you're sharing have to be genuine and authentic. The intent has to remain that you're sharing your life simply as a way to connect with others. And you are sharing connecting, you're creating a community far more than you're selling. To do this, I have always followed the principle of having a few storylines that constantly come up through my posts. These storylines can be as mundane as literally deciding whether or not I was going to give my boyfriend, which then turned into my fiance and now my husband, access to my Costco membership. You'd be insanely surprised how many people have a connection to the idea of putting a boyfriend or a girlfriend on their Costco card and then having to do the walk of shame whenever they broke up with them. And they realize that, they're checking out in the checkout line and then they hand over their card and they realize that they've been removed from the Costco account. This storyline captivated people and it was so incredibly mundane. That story played out for almost a year on my Instagram stories until I finally caved and I gave him access. Every single time that we went to Costco, I would make a story. I would tease him about not having that level of commitment to him. I would do like silly voiceovers of him like pining away at all of the products as he walked down the aisles wishing that he could be part of this like Costco Cool Kids Club. And people loved the relatability of it. It was a bit, right? And they loved it. Finally, of course, I created this like montage of videos of our time together in the aisles of Costco. And I did this voiceover with like music and the commitment that I was making to him. And I published this story sort of like publicly asking him to be on my Costco membership. And I did it with just as much energy as a marriage proposal. And it was hysterical, right? Having storylines that are niched down and specific to you are far more powerful than generic stories. This Costco example it's a pretty great example, but I've also documented like my dog who runs out the front door and escapes in the neighborhood, and then my funny commentary as I drive around looking for him, or my middle son who loves shock value and I'm pretty sure just the other day called my older son a waste of sperm, right? He has all of these antics and I constantly talk about them on my stories. People love it, right? My oldest son, I talk about him being the Roy Kent of our family, right? Especially just this last week, whenever he was going to prom, everybody got to see how mad he was and like throwing a corsage into the car. It was hysterical. I run like my incredible penchant for finding the best Airbnbs whenever we're on vacations. I let people follow along on my interior design projects and demoing, building the studio before. Now I'm doing the new house. Like I mix this in along with normal business stuff too, such as like behind the scenes of shoots or anything that I'm working on or building on. It's like whenever I launched this podcast and everybody got to see the build up to that. Notice how I'm not saying that I post a photo of us on our vacations. No, I get down to the nuance of the Airbnb listing and what made me book it. I'm not posting a photo of my dog and writing, oh, rough day for this guy, right? Pun intended, R-U-F-F, rough. Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm giving commentary about how my dog escaped the house yet again and is running for mayor in the neighborhood and greeting all of his constituents, right? Niching down into these nuances of my life is what makes it so powerful. This is the fly on the wall energy. This is the insider information that makes people feel as though they are on the inside with you. So then when it comes time for me to create stories about a new course or shoots that are booking out, people don't click out of the stories. They stay invested. They want even more to book with you. They want to meet you. They want to hug you. They want photos from you and only you. Doing the work to be mostly connecting with people instead of just showing up when it's time to sell something has led to me being able to create thousands of actual relationships online and in my DMs, and people feel connected to me and my life. Therefore, when I do come out with something new or I'm booking out sessions, my audience is warm and they want to buy from me. They trust me. Plus, They book shoots to get a chance to not only be photographed by me, but also to see the studio and to hang out in person, because they want to move our relationship from behind the screen and into real life. It's crazy just how powerful all of this is for your business. Now, I know being this vulnerable can be scary. And what you're actually scared of isn't necessarily the vulnerability of it, but you're scared of being seen and being visible and putting it out there that you are not a fair weather photographer and that you're actually running a business, and you're worried about what other people in your circle might think. So I am going to give you 10 ways that you can take baby steps into this kind of marketing magic, so that by the time you're doing all 10 of these steps, you don't even feel like you've taken this big, huge leap. You just felt like you kept taking step after step after step. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, stop just reposting what other people have posted, right? Use your face instead. You know you do this, and I'm here to tell you to cut it out, okay? The ever boring, like non-contextual repost. This is like when a client or a planner or a florist posts one of your photos on your feed, and then you send it to your story without an explanation, okay? Your clients or the people watching you in your audience, they don't work in our industry. They don't understand the post. They see a pretty picture and they click right on by it, okay? Imagine the opportunity you're missing out on to be your business's own hype squad. When another business tags your business, get your face on the camera and give a tiny backstory. Tell your audience that your work has been featured, it has been published, it has been promoted, or it has been shared by so-and-so. Better yet, hype up the other business too. Imagine the difference between a standard repost that gets 0 traction versus you getting on your camera and saying, I don't know, this is cheesy, but if you're saying like, oh my God, I'm simply dying today because one of my absolute favorite planners, Angelica Rose Events, she featured one of my gorgeous images from Monique and Caesar's wedding today. And then saying something like, oh, it's so humbling not only to get to work with the best vendors in town, but to be associated with such an elite group, yada, 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 yada. I want to pinch myself about it daily, right? You don't have to say that, right? You can say it in whatever way you want. You can get on your stories and be like, damn, look at who just posted my photo, and then post the photo, right? But whenever you're doing this, you've not only gassed up another business in town who I promise you will take notice of how you're not only reposting their work, but also talking up their business to your audience too. And then they'll want to work with you even more. But you've also given context to the repost, and you've explained to your audience who is involved. You've placed yourself in a luxury market by association. And you've provided the social proof that you are running in circles with the best of the best. If you're not going to be the hype person for your own business in this way, then nobody else will, right? Okay, number 2, create relatability. Create relatability every chance you get. Be on your stories in the most vulnerable way that you feel comfortable with in order to create this sense of relatability. Being on camera and only hyping up your business will fall flat. Getting on to say like, hey guys, just want to put my face on here and say hi every 6 months also will get you nowhere. You have to show up for your business daily. Post behind the scenes of your business and your life. Post the messy house every once in a while. Talk about how something went sideways that day and how you solved it. Talk about a struggle you're having, how you're in therapy, how you're journaling, how you're meditating or you're reading in order to grow and work through it. There is that emotional buy-in that your clients will invest in here. But you don't have to just share the negative in order to be relatable. In fact, I would say share tiny bits of the negative, because you also don't want to be that person on the internet, right? But you can show mom life in all of its glory. You can show your weird love for car cocooning. You can show how your siblings shoved their fingers in your belly button whenever you were little. I'm My brother used to do that to me, and I talked about it once, how I had this hernia in my belly button whenever I was a baby, and so I have this weird little like bubble on the end of it, and my brother and my sisters too, they used to stick their fingers into my belly button and try to push it back in. Clearly I am still traumatized by this one. Okay, you can talk about these nuances that make you you. I talked about being divorced in the wedding industry. I showed myself sobbing like happy tears in the corner of my studio because it was something that I wanted to have for 10 plus years, right? All of these are relatable and they show you in real life. People buy based on their emotions, and this is one of the most powerful ways that you can get that emotional buy-in. Okay? Do not let this scare you. You can just do what you feel comfortable doing. If you don't like the idea of sharing something so personal, then don't. Just find something that you do feel okay sharing. Okay? All right, number 3, create content with intention. When you do create content that isn't organic to your life, create it with the intention of setting yourself apart as an expert within your niche, right? So say like you're not so comfortable about like sharing the personal side of things going on or being more vulnerable. You can do this instead. You can create content with intention. You do this by sticking to the 3 E's of content creation, right? You know this already: empowerment, education, entertainment. Set out to empower others, educate them on your area of expertise, become the authority, and then provide entertainment to keep them coming back for more. Okay. Number 4, reciprocity. I already mentioned this before, but Gary Vee has said it a million times over and wrote a book about it. Jab, 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 right hook. You serve, 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 give, 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 then ask for the sale. This is all based on the theory of reciprocity that says that if you give something to someone, then they will feel an obligated sense to return the favor by buying from you. All right, number 5, language. Pay attention to the language that you use when you're talking to your audience. You're trying to create a community with a sense of belonging. So as you speak to the group, we're using we, we're using us, we're using our. If you notice, anytime I address my husband on social media, I call him our husband to my audience because my community watched me find him. They watched me date him. They watched me get engaged to him. And then they watched our Italian wedding as if it was a telenovela, right? Using grouping words create that feeling of belonging that we crave as humans, and how our brains were like hardwired during the tribal days. Remember, we were talking about that. Tap into that feeling of belonging. Okay, quick note on this right here. When you switch to actually selling your offer, then that's when you make the switch to speak to your audience as an individual, not as the group, right? And this is a whole different set of like psychological tools to use whenever you're selling and negotiating, but that's a whole different topic that we can get into on a different day. All right. But when you're talking on your social media to the group, to your audience, you are making it as if we are using us's, we's, and ours. Okay. Number 6, storylines. We talked about this plenty already, but it's still important to note that the more niche down your storylines are, the more relatable you will be. Saying that you love dogs and coffee is going to get you a yawn fest from your audience. But telling a story about how your dog loves to knock over your coffee and you have to physically hide it because of how many loads of laundry you have to do weekly due to this spilled coffee, that's a niche. As a wedding photographer, saying you love, that's kind of lame and it's too general. But telling the story about how your grandparents met while they were in World War II and your fascination with romance novels and movies started from their love, all while you're like creating a story on social media and you're watching The Notebook, right? That was a long one. That gives a window into why you are you, okay? Number 7, mundane and messy is a storyline. I hear you saying, but I don't have anything going on in my life that's interesting. This isn't actually a thing when it comes to everything that I have taught you today. Humans want to see humans being humans, right? My audience knows the lamest shit about me. They know that I only pick up my mail once a month. And then it gets sent to the post office because my mailbox is too full and overflowing. So it gets put on hold and it gets sent to the post office. And then I have to sift through that huge postal bin and go through all of it, right? They know these silly things that make me me. They know that I hate the color orange and red and that I won't put it in my feed, right? Or they know that I love to sit in my car with my seat warmers on for at least 30 minutes before I get out of my car and go into my house or go into Target or go in the grocery store, wherever I am. So much so that it's been named my car cocoon. They know my contractors' names. They know that I'm addicted to Diet Dr. Pepper, right? None of these things are mind-blowing. These are morsels of real life that get sprinkled in between photo shoots, course launches, disgusting kid humor, and beautiful vacations. So I will say it again. Humans just want to see humans being humans. I will literally sit on my social media and I will watch a person getting a haircut. And I find it so addictive that I cannot scroll off of that reel until I see the final product of that person's haircut, right? It is so addictive and so powerful and so satisfying for us as humans. So tap into it. Okay, number 8, be authentic. Don't come onto your stories trying to be anyone except for your true authentic self, because mostly that would be exhausting, but also your audience will sniff out that inauthenticity in a heartbeat. All right. And that leads into number 9, let the haters hate. Because if you show up inauthentically, you're going to get the haters who hate, right? But number 9, let the haters hate. Will you annoy some people? Yes. Will others in your industry talk about you? Yes. But can you laugh all the way to the bank whenever your launch or your portrait dates for the season sell out within a few hours? Also, yes. So keep your blinders on and just do you. Number 10, consistency. This method of marketing only works when you put in the work to show up in your business every single day. Putting your face in front of your audience on a regular basis keeps your business's name in their mouth. So whenever their friends get engaged, boom, you're on the tip of their tongue. When someone's sister is pregnant, when their friend just had a baby, when a coworker asks for a recommendation, or when they post the family photos that you just took of them, instant word of mouth. Okay. Keep in mind that there are a million ways to market your business. Will your business fail if you don't use this method? No, probably not. But you'll have to work 3 times as hard creating the same kind of cultish following if you're attempting to do this through writing a blog or sending out a newsletter. Okay. And the reach is far wider than any amount of networking that you can do. This kind of marketing is simply a workhorse for your business. So if you choose to leverage it, you can make a huge impact in a bigger pond in a shorter amount of time than any other method available. Whew. Okay. That is a long one. My mouth is dry. I am done talking for the day. Bye for now, friends. Okay, so that is a wrap on this episode of the Posers Podcast. If you loved it, please subscribe, rate, and review, because honestly, algorithms are needier than all of our ex-boyfriends combined, and ladies, I need all the help I can get. If you've got thoughts, questions, love letters, even hate mail, please send them my way. I actually read every single one of them. So until next time, stay bold, stay messy, and don't let the bullshit win. Tits up, ears open, and go build something incredible. Bye for now, friends.